Hey everybody, Florida Fisherman here, and today we're going to be doing a waste oil burner made from scratch, and we're going to take you through the process from start to finish. And here's a little tidbit of the paint burning off of this fire extinguisher for the first time while this thing is heating up for the first time, and this sucker gets hot, so stick around and watch the entire build. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Making Something from Nothing. And what we're going to be making this time around is a waste oil heater slash burner. And what we're going to be using for this project is this big old honkin' fire extinguisher. Well, I've got all the contents of this fire extinguisher emptied out, and it sure made a mess. And now it's just a matter of popping some holes in it. I need one for an inlet for the oil and the air, and one for the outlet for the exhaust, which is going to melt my metal. And I rescued this rickety old piece of, well, you know what I mean, out of the garbage somebody was throwing away, and I wanted it for the steel pipe. And it's going to come in handy for this situation right here. Well, I have one of these supports off, and I think that'll be just enough material to do what I need to do. Well, after looking at this steel pipe tubing, I should call it, I'm deciding this is a little bit too thin. I don't think I'm going to use that, and I decided, after looking through the junk pile, that this piece that came off a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, I don't know what it is, that's pretty thick gauge steel tube. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use that. I think I'm going to chop this up instead, and it'll make for a prettier burner. Can't have a bunch of flame without some chrome, right? Well, that should be thin enough. Probably snap right off. And she's off. Well, I've got my two curved pieces of pipe. This one here is going to be the exhaust for the burner, and this one here I cut at an angle, and what that one's going to do is it's going to sit inside the tank, and I'm going to weld it in, and it's angled this way, so this way it's going to blow the air and the oil sideways and then create a vortex of air like that. And this will be mounted in towards the bottom, so it's going to blow the oil and the air in there, ignite, and then spin all the way up, and it's going to be looking for a place to get out, and it's going to come out the exhaust. And this top hole I'm going to go ahead and plug up. Well, I need to take this up to 1.25 inch hole in order to weld that pipe in. So I'm going to start off with a series of smaller ones until I can get the unibit in. Now we're at 7:30 seconds. Okay, so we're up to a 1/2 inch hole. Didn't punch all the way through, no need to. Now I can get the unibit started and take that all the way up to 1 inch. Well, the step bit works good. Now I've got a 1 inch hole, but I need to take that up to 1 1/4 to accept that pipe. So that's the biggest bit that I have, so I'll have to do the rest by hand. Well, I have both holes drilled out now. Pipes fit in, but this pipe is curved, and that'll just fit in here, and that's going to go ahead and wrap the oil and the airflow in a circular pattern. So basically what we're going to have is that. pipe out the top and a pipe in the bottom, and the bottom one's curved. But that's pretty much where we're at the moment. I need to take the angle grinder and take off all this paint and the chrome, so this way I get a good weld, and I'll bring you guys back after I have all that done. All the surfaces are prepped, ready for welding. Well, got everything fitted up and ready to strike the torch. Hey everyone, just an update on the burner. Got everything welded in. I use an oxyacetylene set, so it gets a little burn up when you're welding. But gas welding, it's old-fashioned, but it'll work all day long. And I've got the other one welded in. I've got our inlet for the oil, which is going to be this rod right here. Actually, it's a tube. And I actually sourced this from this piece of junk that I picked up off the side of the road. And I'll tell you what, every time I pick up something off the side of the road, even though it looks like a piece of crap, I always find a way and a use for it. Now, since I took the top off the fire extinguisher, which is that guy right there that threads in, I need a cap for it, so this way the flames aren't blowing out the top. I found this that the railroad guys had cut off with a torch. It's a railroad bolt. And damn if it doesn't fit nice and snug right on the top of that. And what else do we got? Well, I already showed you, we've got the hole for this guy. I need to widen that a little bit. It doesn't quite fit in. And this is not actually a tight weld. They just tack welded each side, and there's a little gap right there, so I'm going to go ahead and braze that together, so this way oil's not leaking all over the place. So I'm going to braze that, and that's it for that part. Now we got another fire extinguisher sitting here, and what I'm going to be using this for is you need a place for the oil to drain down into this burner right here. And everyone uses 5-gallon buckets, and I see people, you know, using milk jugs, and I decided I wanted something a little bit more stable than a plastic milk jug, because them things dry rot. 5-gallon buckets dry rot, and the last thing I want is to be picking up a 5-gallon bucket and having a crack develop and leaking motor oil or transmission fluid or waste vegetable oil, whatever I decide to use or have on hand that week. I don't want that crap leaking all over the place, so I'm going to use a fire extinguisher. And there's an O-ring right there, so it's a nice tight seal on the top, and down the bottom somewhere I've already cut a hole in it. And what I'm going to do with that, if I could reach around behind me, great camera work there, sorry about that, but I'm going to go ahead and braze this guy in place right there, 1/4-inch nipple, so this way I could put a 1/4-inch ball valve and then a 1/4-inch needle valve to regulate my oil flow down to the burner. So that's what I have on hand, and that's what I'm going to use, because this channel is about making something from nothing. Okay, I've got the pipe nipple all brazed in. Looking pretty good. Relatively easy brazing job. Got it hot, got in, got out. And now we've got our little elbow all brazed up, so now the oil won't leak out of there. Brazing sure is ugly until you clean it up with a wire brush. Okay, so we got the little brazing jobs cleaned up with the wire wheel. Looks good. Okay, well this wasn't really part of the plan, but I am actually getting pretty antsy to get this guy fired up. And I don't have my ball valve and needle valve for the fuel line yet. So I figured out a way to scab this thing together. So let me show you what we got. We got a stainless steel cup. I popped the hole in it. That was a 4-inch brass nipple, 1/8 inch. So I put one in the bottom of that cup and one in the side of this cup, and I'm fixing to braze it together because I need these to be leak proof. So I'll show you guys what I have in mind, but I'm going to get this thing fired up today. Okay, I'm going to give everybody a rundown of the contraption and the way this thing is going to work here. I don't have the proper fittings to set up a proper oil feed to this thing, so to try this thing out, I'm improvising. I had the stuff to do it, so I did it. So what we've got here is I went ahead and brazed on that fitting, and I stole this little valve, adjustable valve, off of a wine bottle. Yes, everybody, a wine bottle. And it relatively holds the oil pressure pretty good. I've got oil in there, and I let it sit overnight to see if this thing leaked, and it leaks like a drop every 3 hours, so I'm not really concerned about that. But this is how it's going to work. Is I'm going to open this valve, and the oil is going to stream down into this cup here, and in the bottom of this cup I went ahead and attached another fitting, and that's flush with the bottom, so whatever drips out of here goes into here, and it's immediately going to go out the bottom. And what comes out the bottom is this flexible rubber tube that gets hooked into this, which is going to feed my oil right over here. And I've got my air line hooked up to the end of the tube, and that runs around to my shop vac. And the shop vac, if I could follow the power cord, comes over here to my variable speed outlet that I made. And how this guy works is it makes my fan variable speed. So now it's just a matter of getting this sucker lit. I've never had one of these. Never made one of these, so I'm going to figure out how to light this guy. Well, as you can see from the camera shaking, it's a little bit windy today, so I went ahead and lowered down the spigot there closer to my cup, so this way the wind's not blowing oil all over the frickin' place. This weather's pissing me off. Time to get it fired up. Well, I went ahead and poured a little bit of oil in the bottom, a couple pieces of newspaper soaked with some oil, A couple more pieces of newspaper, and I've got a rag half soaked with oil poking out, and put a little bit of lighter fluid just to make sure it lights. And here we go. Well, it looks like the rag dropped right on to the little pool of oil and went out, so time to give it another shot. Needed a shot at air from the blower. She's getting hot now. Well, now that it's lit, I wanted to go ahead and cap off that top like you just saw me do. And I didn't do too much narrating while I was doing all this because I was too busy mucking around with the burner, so I'm doing a voiceover. And here what I'm doing is turning up the vacuum just a little bit. Now, I did have some oil in the bottom of that thing, but I still haven't started the oil flow from my little reservoir with my little faucet, you know, down to the airflow pipe. So that's what I'm doing right now, is turning up the air and fixing to turn on the oil flow here in a moment. So now I'm going here and opening up the valve on that little faucet, start letting some oil flow down into that bottom cup so it starts draining down towards the burner. And you see all that smoke coming off the fire extinguisher. Now this thing is running and this thing is cranking out some heat, and this is motor oil. And there's no smoke coming out of the exhaust at all. This thing is burning clean. The only smoke that you see in this video is the smoke coming off the fire extinguisher because that paint is burning. And you're going to see here shortly that paint does not last very long. But that's the only smoke that came from this entire burn, was basically from the paint burning off that fire extinguisher. I was really surprised because this is motor oil. Well, in this little segment here, I'm just playing around a little bit with the exhaust from the shop vac, because I've never had one of these, and I have the oil flow maxed out. You can see the oil dripping down. The wind's kind of messing with the stream coming down, so it's going to start making a mess here in a little bit when the wind kicks up. But I'm working with the exhaust from the shop vac to figure out the little sweet spot on this thing. Takes a little getting used to these type of burners, but they're good. Well, the dang thing was running so clean out of the exhaust that I actually took the top cap off to make sure I still had fire inside, and it was the vortex of fire from hell on the inside. But there is no smoke or flames coming out of the exhaust, which actually surprised me too. I don't think I had enough oil flow. Well, in this little segment, I cranked up the oil as fast as it would run out of that little faucet and turned up the exhaust on that shop vac. And this thing is really starting to heat up now. And this is kind of what I've been waiting for, I believe. So sit back and watch this guy heat up. Well, once that oil flow and that exhaust from the shop vac got cranked up, that paint is really starting to take a beating now, and it's not going to last very long. Well, to test it out, I figured I'd try and char a palm frond. And as soon as I got it underneath the exhaust, basically turn that thing into charcoal. So that exhaust is pretty dang hot. Surprised there's no flames though. Well, as you can see, now that the paint has pretty much fully burned off, there is no smoke coming off of this burner whatsoever, except for a little bit down the bottom where that paint has not burnt all the way off. Well, it sure burns clean. Hell, that's motor oil. Here I'm going to go in the shed and grab some aluminum and put it underneath the exhaust and see what happens. Watch that little palm frond at the bottom. This aluminum is going to start spraying off. Well, after looking at that spray of molten aluminum down on that palm frond, I know this burner is going to work well for melting some aluminum and doing some sand casting. So pretty much the experiment at this point is pretty much done. The burner's broke in, and I know it melts metal. So I'm going to be shutting this thing down here shortly. tornado in there. Well, that's with the air flat out. And we just ran out of fuel. I think cars sound funny when they run out of gas. Try one of these things. Jesus. Well, I'm just going to let the air run on this thing and cool this sumbitch down. Little safety tip. Don't put your hand on here to see if it's warm. Trust me. It is. Well, thanks for watching another episode of Making Something from Nothing. This is Florida Fisherman, and I wanted to invite you to subscribe to our channel so you'll be notified of any additional videos. And these 3 videos that you see on the screen, just click any of the images and it'll take you right to it. And I hope that you enjoy this kind of stuff, because I enjoy putting up the videos and doing this kind of stuff too. So this is Florida Fisherman, and I'll see you next time around. Check out our other stuff. Thank you.